Former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan's rearrest under the Official Secrets Act has brought back into sharp relief perceptions within his Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party of the US meddling in the country's internal affairs. Known as the Cypher case because it involves a once classified diplomatic document that Khan reportedly possessed and is now said to have gone missing, is at the heart of these perceptions. Khan has alleged that a cipher or a diplomatic cable from Washington last year contained proof that the US had conspired with the Pakistani military to oust him from office via a no confidence motion. Even though the US has denied any involvement, this week Vedant Patel, principal deputy spokesperson for the US Department of State, said on September 6 that Washington was closely monitoring Imran Khan's case. Separately, US Ambassador to Islamabad, Donald Blome, met with senior Pakistani officials, including the controversial Chief Election Commissioner Sikandar Sultan Raja, to discuss law and order situation as well as ensuring transparency in elections. Those developments have alarmed Raoof Hasan, the information secretary of Khan's Tehreek-e-Insaf party, prompting him to castigate Washington's meddling, including describing Blome as the new viceroy, a reference to the days of the British colonial power over the subcontinent. Raoof Hasan spoke to Mayank Shah Reports from Islamabad. Welcome to Mayank Shah Reports, Raoof. It's always a great pleasure to have you on.
It's a great pleasure to be here, Mayan. Thank you very much for inviting me. Very kind of you.
I was struck by a statement made by Vedant Patel, who happens to be the deputy spokesperson of the US State Department, where he said in response to a question from a Pakistani journalist that the US is monitoring the situation in Pakistan, especially in the context of Mr. Imran Khan, closely. I don't know what that means, but what do you think that means?
Well, they should know what it is all about. I mean, why should they be monitoring it? If they mean that they're monitoring the reaction in Pakistan, that reaction is more than a year and a half old. When the news first broke out that there was such a cipher, sent by our ambassador in the US to the government in Pakistan. The news has been out, ever since then, So, yes, it's possibly grown in importance, because while on the one hand, everyone concedes that there was a cipher, everyone concedes that while the contents of the ciphers, which have now been reported by Intercept.com also, they are known to everybody. But they possibly thought, that the whole thing was going to die out, and contrary to that, not only that it has not died out, it continues spouting forth. And this moment in time, I think the discussion possibly is at its height, in the sense, that a lot of people from the PTI are being tried for having violated the Secrets Act, which has been amended without the president's signature. And a gazette notification issued to the effect, that the said law has been amended, incorporating, more stringent clauses, whereby they could possibly try a larger number of people, for having violated the Secrets Act. So Khan is being tried for that. Shah Mahmood Qureshi is being tried for that. Let me just update you and our viewers on this. Basically, Cypher is a reality. It is the truth. Our ambassador in the US sent a confidential note, which is generally referred to as Cypher, to the Foreign Office, which basically encapsulated the conversation that had taken place between Donald Blue and an American officer and our ambassador based in Washington at that moment in time. There were a couple of things, which were later construed as blatant interference in Pakistan's internal affairs at the National Security Committee meetings held first under the chairmanship of then Prime Minister Imran Khan, and then under the chairmanship of the then Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. in that cipher, it was stated that Donald Trump had expressed displeasure at the then Prime Minister's visit to Russia, and accused him that he had kind of planned it alone, which was contrary to facts. And it went on to state that if the Prime Minister is removed through a vote of no confidence, everything will be forgiven. But if he's not, then there are going to be serious consequences. This is all in the cipher, which is now in public knowledge, because it was declassified by the then cabinet under then Prime Minister Imran Khan. Later on, a copy of it was sent to the President of Pakistan. Another copy was sent to the then Speaker of the National Assembly, who forwarded a copy of it to the Chief Justice of Pakistan, asking him to constitute a judicial commission to inquire into the contents of the cipher and take appropriate measures or action. Which unfortunately was never done, which is still our demand. We're still demanding it. So it kind of it is all that. So it's a reality, and then of course later he had resigned. He had been ousted by then. So it became public knowledge. Ever since then, it has stayed. It has continued to be debated. Now, after Intercept.com broke it for public knowledge. Everyone knows that what Imran Khan said is the reality, is the truth. But now they are accusing him of having violated the Secrets Act. But the fact of the matter is that no one talked about the cipher and the contents of the cipher till it had been formally declassified by the then cabinet. So once a document is declassified by any government, it does not fall within the ambit of the Secrets Act after that. Consequently, no crime was committed, no irregularity was committed. But in spite of that, because of the amendments which have now been incorporated in the Secrets Act, which was not signed by the president, so without the president's signature, it can not become a law. But fortunately, it is now being construed as having become law, and steps are being taken, under that act. So it is still Imran Khan is still being accused, that he violated the Secrets Act, But like I said, after declassification of a document, it does not fall within the ambit of the classified documents after that. So it is very much in the news. Yes, so if according to the wishes of the government of the US, yes, vote of no confidence was moved against the then Prime Minister, and he was ousted. Now, I don't understand why are they monitoring the cipher sort of debate now, if they are afraid that because of his popularity among the people of the country, he may stage a comeback, and that may not be conducive to the American interest in this part of the world. That's a different matter. Of course, they should be monitoring it. This debate is not going to die out. This debate will continue till it comes to rest, with the unveiling of truth, and that being acknowledged, by the government of Pakistan, at least, because the government of the US, unfortunately, would never acknowledge the fact that such a threat was hurled at Pakistan through its foreign ministry officer, Mr. Donald Trump. So this is the beginning and the end of the whole thing. So I don't quite understand the American concern, except in the context, that we see clouds of war hovering over this part of the world now, and this is all initiated by the US. And this time, I think we have been part of the war against the former Soviet Union. Tragically, we have also been part of the war on terror, and now people like me fear that we may yet again become part of another war. And this time, understandably, it is going to be a war to contain China. I think that would be a massive, monumental tragedy for Pakistan to become part of any other war. It can't afford it. I mean, you know exactly what our state is economically. We can't afford to fight a war. And if we are expecting some more dollars to pour in, unfortunately, I think that will be at the cost of the state of Pakistan and its interests. So I hope it doesn't happen. But the pundits are predicting, that I think sooner rather than later, we shall be engulfed, by the flames of war yet again.
So, I mean, it's striking to me that once again there are apprehensions in Pakistan that the country will become a staging ground for another sort of great game involving
Russia, China, and the US. That's rather serious. How serious do you think this move appears to you from there?
Well, it is very serious, but you missed out on another country which tragically shall be playing a role in this, which is India, your home country. It is just unfortunate. Of course, India has had its own problems with China, but India has maintained excellent relations with Russia from the very inception. Back in 1947, first Soviet Union and now Russia. And I think it has also been very consistent in the sense that it has refused to criticize Russia for in the Ukraine crisis, and it has continued to maintain and expand its economic relations with that country, which is remarkable as an objective of foreign policy for any country. Unfortunately, when Pakistan tried to do the same under Imran Khan, we were not just castigated, we were actually punished. That how dare you do it? So this is by virtue of us being a smaller and a weaker country. India is a much more powerful country and much bigger country. There are more economic stakes, that other countries have in India. Consequently, it's very difficult to manipulate India. We unfortunately have turned this into a tradition that we have offered ourselves as vulnerable sort of commodities which countries, particularly the United States of America, has played around with, becoming a part of CETO, CENTO, now being a so-called non-NATO ally, becoming partners of America in tragic wars, that we fought, at immense loss, financial and human loss, to our own country. Unfortunately, has been a very short-sighted foreign policy decision making. Since China is surging ahead, and by all counts, it shall become the world's largest economy before the year 2030. Efforts have been redoubled, to contain it. Pakistan has been consistently under pressure, to contain its relations with China. Pakistan has been consistently under pressure to contain CPAC and kind of block it. I think multiple stakeholders within Pakistan have kind of helped out in that containment, which again is very unfortunate. So this part of the world, and I don't know what will India gain out of this. While China remains a neighbor of India, and I'm sure that in due course of time, the relations between China and India will also normalize. I think they shall definitely be able to sit across and talk things out with regard to the border dispute that they have had for a number of years. It's not a permanent feature. India and China are world's two, the second largest and the third largest economies now. No other country can afford to overlook either India or China, including the United States of America. So I don't understand. I still have my doubts, that India would actually become a part of this.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I see this. I mean, first of all, I have serious misgivings about this kind of war taking place anytime soon, given that next year you have US presidential elections as well as India's general elections. And apart from that, I don't think India will choose to be drawn into a conflict like that. It has too many serious consequences for itself. At best, they'll guard themselves and take a rather neutral position on that. But I seriously doubt if India will get involved in anything of that sort.
Mayank, I totally understand and appreciate your statement. As a matter of fact, I feel that India has acted very wisely in the past and has not been pulled into any such conflicts. It has stayed neutral. It has maintained its neutrality. And I'm a great admirer of the Indian foreign policy. In fact, my leader, Imran Khan, is a great admirer of Indian foreign policy. He has repeatedly referred to Indian foreign policy and said, look, why can't we also be allowed to act like India? To maintain our neutrality. He calls it the luxury of being neutral. He says, why can't Pakistan also have the luxury of being neutral in such disputes? I totally agree. I concede that point. But the intentions and the intentions are there. But Pakistan being a much smaller country, a much weaker country, particularly now that it is economically so hellishly vulnerable, I think we can be easily pulled into a conflict of that kind. But that is not going to solve our problems in spite of the inflow of some dollars that may come, during the currency of that conflict. Right. This is unfortunately the way we survive. We dealt with the war against Soviet Union, inflow of dollars. Then, of course, the war on terror that we became a partner in, we got lots of dollars, but unfortunately, the consequences of this involvement, has been disastrous for Pakistan. So I'm worried about that. I'm not, obviously, India has to decide for itself, and I'm sure I'm more inclined to stating that they will not be drawn into this war than believing that they will be drawn into this war. But Pakistan definitely runs a major risk of being drawn into another war.
The division between Pakistan civil society and the military establishment, the latter having a direct stake in gaining some foothold with the US again and getting some dollars in, as you mentioned. Do you think they might be tempted to lend themselves to another war?
I would say that they've already done it. The contract, that was signed, which was never made public, but it kind of leaked out, that is for purchase of US equipment, and I think the Americans would not have signed it without a trade-off. And what is that trade-off? That trade-off is that, those weapons, like, for example, when we initially received the American warplanes, as members of C2 and CENTO, there was a condition attached to it that these weapons will not be used against India. That was the trade-off. That, all right, you can use this for your defense, but you cannot use this in an offensive manner against any other country, including India. I think yet again, I feel that there has been a trade-off, or there's going to be a trade-off. But the signing of that contract, whereby Pakistan will be permitted to buy American equipment, definitely will have a quid pro quo attached to it, and that quid pro quo, I feel, is that Pakistan, when asked to do something in that context, will be willing and able to do that. Obviously, money will pour in from the Americans, which we are hungry for at this moment in time, but we have always been hungry for foreign dollars, unfortunately, because we have not been able to build our own structures or our own foundations, whereby, we could become a sustainable economy. And we've always gone around, with this begging bowl to the world, even our best friends have now started asking, that, all right, we give you these dollars, which will help you survive another 3 months, but what do you do after that? Is it going to be a permanent begging bowl? And that is a matter of shame for people like me. See, that after 75 years of our independence, we still are going around with that begging bowl to the world. I mean, we have become a laughing stock of the world, and that's very unfortunate.
Coming to Imran Khan and his rearrest under the Official Secrets Act, it's rather ironic that once again that Cypher has proved to be his undoing. First, when he was ousted after a no confidence vote, and now his rearrest, despite court having granted him bail in the Toshakhana case.
Well, it's ironic. It really is ironic, that first you punish him, oust him, on the orders of a foreign country. And by the way, you see, like I mentioned, in response to an earlier question, that a proper meeting of the National Security Committee was held. National Security Committee comprises the senior most military officers and the senior most members of the cabinet. And of course, the Prime Minister presides over. So in that meeting of the NSC meeting, that was the 37th meeting, that the whole thing was discussed threadbare, and they construed that such a document, was a blatant interference in the internal matters of Pakistan, and they said that we must serve a démarche to the government of the US, both in Washington and in Islamabad. The said démarche was served. Then this meeting was presided over by Imran Khan. The next meeting was presided over by the then Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, which was possibly held with an intention to amend the minutes of the previous NSC. But they were not able to, because Ambassador Asad Majid was unwilling to change a statement or amend the contents of the cipher which he had sent. Consequently, they ratified the findings of the previous NSC meeting and the serving of the démarche. So, it's a reality. I don't know why did the state of Pakistan had to refute the fact, that such a document had not been received, from our ambassador. So the whole discussion, was primarily because part of the objective of that document, had not been served by then, which was served, once the then Prime Minister Imran Khan was ousted. But after that, they would have wanted the discussion to have come to an end. But then it was Khan who took up the discussion, and he carried it forth. He did not let it die out, and it is still not dying out. So yes, I think you're right. But look, the point is that there comes a time in the history of nations, when you have to face the truth. We have been a subservient nation. There is no doubt about it, but we're not willing to acknowledge it. We have been a subservient nation to the diktat of others, particularly the US. We have sacrificed our own interests over a period of 75 years. Even now, if we become part of this new conflict, in this part of the world, then I think we would yet again be sacrificing our intrinsic interests, which are linked with other countries of the region also, including India. I'm a great advocate of friendship with India. And my think tank, has held bilaterals, attended by some wonderful people from India. And I wish I could continue it, but unfortunately, one of my projects is still unfinished, because we have not been able to get visas to travel to India. But I hope that this situation will change soon. I think the next elections, post-next elections, I see things changing. This is personal. This is my personal appraisal. I think then things will possibly change rapidly, and there will be a level of normalization between the two countries, and I think we should be able to recommence our dialogues. So that's we have interest linked with Russia, we have interest linked with Iran, we have interest linked with Afghanistan, India, China. All these interests cannot be sacrificed, But if we are drawn into this war with America, initiated by America, which is what I fear, if not in 6 months, maybe a year and a half, 2 years, whenever, it will be at the cost of our regional interests. I don't think any country would sacrifice that.
I've been it's almost more than, why almost? It is more than a month now since Mr. Khan was imprisoned. It was August 5th, today is September 7th. What's his condition? What's he like? Have you had any chance to meet him? How is he doing, generally speaking?
Well, nobody has been allowed to meet him except his lawyers periodically and his wife. His two sisters have met him just once. So they have not yet come to the party people. In fact, we understand that they do not want to permit any party person to meet him at all. So his contact, with us is through the lawyers who go to meet him, and very occasionally through his wife. If he comes, with some instructions, for the party people, then those instructions are passed. But otherwise, we're completely out of touch with him. But through this credible information which comes to us through the lawyers and other other source that we have said, he continues to live under abominable conditions. But he insists, that he doesn't want to talk about his personal condition. He's more concerned about, what's happening in the country and how PTI can play a role to help the impoverished people come out of that stranglehold. That is his concern, basically. So whenever, even if one of the lawyers, for example, tries to sort of dig out, as to the level of comfort, that he has in living in that hole of a thing, he says, "No, look, I don't want to talk about it. I have become comfortable in my environment, and I think I'm acclimatized here, and that's okay." But he is very, very candid about it. Said that if they feel that they can break me by subjecting me to this kind of treatment, that go and tell them that, look, I am not the kind of person to break. I'm not leaving this country, and I'm not going to break down. I'm going to fight it to the end. This is the spirit. This is the spirit.
Let me understand from you, now that he has been rearrested under the Official Secrets Act, how long can he be kept there? Because otherwise he's supposed to be out on bail, and this Official Secrets Act case hasn't been adjudicated yet, right?
Well, it was supposed to be adjudicated last Monday, and when our lawyers went to the court, they were told that the judge who was going to do it has gone on leave for a week. This is tragic. This is preposterous. Absolutely preposterous. You remember the way the proceedings against him were conducted. They used to sort of go on till late at night, and within 4 days, they came to the judgment. But there is undue procrastination. There's conscious, willful procrastination with regard to hearing his appeal. This appeal will now come up for hearing, on Monday, this coming Monday. But I don't foresee an immediate relief for him. And even if he were to get a relief in this, there are potentially 11 other cases, in which he can be arrested. So it is going to be like he gets a bail in one case, he's arrested for another. He gets a bail in that case, he gets arrested for a third case. So it's going to be, they are hell bent on keeping him in.
How do you think the caretaker Prime Minister Anwarul Haque is looking at this situation? Because right now he's at the helm and it's his responsibility as well, right?
He has to continue looking at the lurking shadows. So the Prime Minister in name, that is all I can say.
Okay. It jumped out at me that the U.S. Ambassador to Islamabad, Donald Blome, has met with several officials, including caretaker Chief Minister Mohsin Naqvi, IG Punjab Usman Anwar, and Chief Election Commissioner Sikandar Sultan Raja, which they apparently talked about the law and order situation, etc. Does it strike you as odd that the U.S. ambassador should go through these meetings about the law and order situation in your country?
I call him the new viceroy. It's East India Company reborn, not in the Indo-Pakistan subcontinent, but in Pakistan alone. His meeting, all of these people, was highly objectionable because, number one, I wrote a tweet on his first meeting with the CEC. That the Supreme Court has now come out with that judgment, in which they have accused the Chief Election Commissioner of having violated the Constitution. They have not prescribed a punishment for him, which is construed as a weakness of the Supreme Court. But the judgment is out. It's a very comprehensive judgment, in which they have held them guilty of contempt of Constitution. Consequently, the American viceroy in Pakistan calling on a person who, according to the apex court of Pakistan, has been in contempt of the Constitution, has violated the Constitution, I think is a travesty of the principles that they follow in their own country. I think they should be sensitive to the public sentiment here. Meeting, calling on the IG Punjab, again is extremely objectionable, because this person is responsible for unleashing brutality and barbarity upon innocent, unarmed people of the PTI. More than 10,000 of them are still incarcerated in jails. They're not being given bails. They're not even being presented before courts for bails. So this again is highly objectionable. Then he called on Maryam Nawaz Sharif. Maryam Nawaz Sharif is is the chief organizer of one political party. I think that is extremely discriminatory. I don't know whether he's going to call on the leaders of other political parties or not, but my understanding is that no, it was just confined to meeting Maryam Nawaz. So all three meetings, in the order that I have cited, are very objectionable. Consequently, we feel that maybe the Cypher was only the beginning of the larger conspiracy, which virtually is an economic takeover of Pakistan. I personally believe that it is now underway, if not already happened.
That's a very damning observation, Raoof.
It is. It's something that has been on my mind, and I've been thinking mournfully about it, as I would say, because it brings tears to my eyes that my country has now become an economic captive of a country like the US of A. Unfortunately, we have more to blame ourselves, than any other country. We have unfortunately brought ourselves to this pass where we can be easily manipulated, easily exploited. We are in no position to defend our interests. Consequently, I see that unless of course sanity prevails, and unless of course powers that be decide to sit across the table and talk things out with leaders like Imran Khan and others, I think Pakistan is going to continue going downhill. And I think ultimately the state that I've said Pakistan is falling into will become a reality, or if it has not already become a reality, because the manner in which the viceroy, the American viceroy, called upon those people, I think, shows a kind of disdain for local laws and local sensitivities, and that is not expected of an ambassador of a foreign country. I've been dealing with this thing, for over 2 decades now, and I know the sagaciousness, with which ambassadors usually opt to function when posted to another country.
To change gears a bit, just the last couple of things. I read that Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan carried out a major attack on the army positions in Chitral in Pakhtunkhwa. What do you know about that?
Well, I think it's the instances of terrorism have been on the increase in the last 6 months. In fact, they were increasing, but at a less meaningful pace. But in the last 6 months, they have really picked up. We have been losing our Jawans in these clashes, and we claim that we have killed a number of terrorists in such encounters. While we can see the bodies of our dead soldiers, we are never shown the bodies of the dead terrorists. So it's a matter of conjecture, whether such a number of terrorists are actually eliminated, or it falls in the domain of hyperbole. There are reasons, I wrote an article about 3.5 years ago. You see, look, this takes us into a different domain, but let's discuss it for a couple of minutes, basically. I wrote about 3.5 years, and that was a story on Taliban. And I said, I foresee a strategic partnership between the Taliban and the USFA at some stage in the future. My understanding is that the withdrawal, the American withdrawal from Afghanistan, was an artificially hurried withdrawal. Actually, it was a withdrawal consequent upon an understanding which the government of the US had reached with the Taliban, not at Doha, but otherwise. And that understanding pertained to the fact, that the Americans will not only stay on in some measure or the other, they will stage a comeback. And that comeback has been staged already. I understand that one of the largest CIA centers is now operating in Afghanistan, and massive amount of financial support is being sent to the government of the Taliban, though not recognized by any country of the world yet, but the funds are being provided to them, not just for sustenance, but also their economy has picked up immensely in the last 6 months to 1 year. Their rupee, their currency has become stronger. While Pakistani currency has continued to devalue, their currency has become stronger. The support of the Taliban government for the TTA, which is Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan (TTP), has become visible. It is no longer a secret. It has become visible. And it also reflects that Pakistan's policy has not been able to deal with the situation that at one point in time appeared to be its strength. When Imran Khan was the prime minister, there were relatively speaking, good relations between Pakistan and the government of the Taliban had taken over. As a matter of fact, Khan was dubbed as Mr. Taliban. But we had good relations, which unfortunately have deteriorated ever since the exit of Imran Khan. At this moment in time, relations are at a pretty horrible ebb, with the cross-border fighting taking place virtually every day. And it is not just this particular incident that you have referred to, in which we lost 4 people and they ostensibly lost 12. These skirmishes are taking place virtually on a daily basis. So it's not a good thing here. And the incidents of violence, are not just occurring at the border; they are also occurring in thickly populated areas. So in Balochistan and in the KP, and even in some centers of Punjab, these incidents are being witnessed on a daily basis. So there is a reason why Pakistan should look inwards, not just on one count or another count, but on so many counts, basically. The divisions which have been created, the enmities and hatreds, which are being consciously sparked. These are things, which can destroy a country. Like I have pleaded often, and this article which will appear tomorrow, hopefully, again I have pleaded for sanity to return to determine the future of this country. So both sides, the establishment and the political leadership. I think they need to get together and sit across on a table and see exactly what are the steps which are necessary to be taken. If we continue like this, I see us moving further downhill, and we are already perched on the verge. I don't even know whether there's space to move downhill, or it's just going to be a plunge in the pit from which we would not be able to come out.
To extend a little bit on that, with the China-Russia nexus or axis becoming rather strong at this stage, and with North Korea jumping in now, do you think the US might once again use Afghanistan as part of a new great game?
I just referred to it.
Yeah,
one of the largest CIA centers is now operating in Kabul. Why? So this is the strategic partnership that I talked about 3.5 years in one of my articles. I'll try to find a link and send it to you.
Sure.
You can see that. Sure. You can see that. So this is the strategic partnership, which is not shaping up now, which actually has already shaped up between the Taliban and the US. And this is the reason why there is increasing pressure on Pakistan. And the pressure, one is, of course, we're caught up in this economic enfeeblement. But also there is a cross-border. India is not the one that is involved at this moment in time, but Afghanistan, definitely the Taliban government is involved in the sense, that they're not being able to control the TTP. Right. We feared it. Somebody like me, I feared it because I knew that they were, when they were fighting the Americans, they were partners in war. So it's very difficult to dispense with a partner, once victory has been achieved. They want their own slice of cake. They want their own pound of flesh. So they're getting the pound of flesh, and part of the pound of flesh is across the Afghan border into Pakistani territory, where I think the Taliban government is permitting the TTP to continue operating. So that it's a difficult situation to deal with. But my question to my leaders would be, why did they let it degrade to a point where it would become a challenge? It's a massive challenge now, and they have to address it. They have to deal with it, and I hope that they do so without any further loss of time. They have to reach across to the Taliban government. They have to sit across. They have to talk things out, and they have to ensure that the border remains safe. Which at this moment, as we talk to each other, sir, is not safe at all. There are constant incursions, on a daily basis.
Yeah. To conclude, you don't see for the foreseeable future Mr. Khan coming out, is it?
No, I personally don't, although I hope and pray that he does, because I think keeping him in is a travesty of justice, in any of the cases, which have been registered against him. They're fake, flimsy, and fraudulent. But the policies are decided elsewhere. They're not decided by the judiciary. The judiciary is totally irrelevant at this moment in time. I again tweeted a couple of days ago, judiciary does not exist in this country. Rule of law does not exist. Constitution does not exist. The institutions do not exist. The executive does not exist. All of them have become subservient to the diktat, whose source nobody wants to talk about. It's a tragic situation in Pakistan, and but I also believe that it's a situation which is not tenable. I think it's going to break. And I think with each passing day, we see that the pressure is increasing. A lawyers' movement has now started in Pakistan. Today, there was a massive gathering of people, under the Supreme Court Bar Association banner in Islamabad. There were people, who sort of were standing on the roadside because they could not find space inside the auditorium. And the tone of the speeches, was rebellious.
I see.
So they were. It was an invitation to come and arrest them. And they said, that we have now come out, and we shall not rest till we have restored the rule of law and the constitution.